Hello, my name is Asia Branch, and welcome to the very first episode of Speak On It, brought to you by Archie Plays. Many of you remember me from my Walk Away videos that I posted to the Facebook campaign, as well as on my page. And so without reiterating my statement from the Walk Away campaign, I'm just going to keep a long story very short. Basically, a while ago, I was a very ignorant conservative. And to put that into context, it basically means I was Democrat because my family were Democrats. It was liberal ideologies in the household, all the while maintaining conservative values. And doing my own homework, doing the deep dives myself, I've realized that I'm not actually a Democrat. I'm not even a Republican. What I am is an American that believes in three things: reason, capitalism, and individualism. Those are the three things that we need for our nation to thrive. One of those things I would say the democratic socialists seem to be missing, which is the reason part. And without that, all decisions that we make out of illogical, emotional responses lead to travesty and chaos. Now, I have a couple of facts here with me in regards to democratic socialism, and I want to start with the Alexandra young woman who is running for Congress, who basically is going to win, but she keeps finding a way to shoot herself in her own foot, considering she doesn't even have an idea of what's happening in the Middle East. But this is a college grad. We'll talk about that another day. The head of the DNC has decided that he believes that Alexandria is the perfect person and the leader and future of the Democratic Party. To be clear, socialism has destroyed economies and nations. Perfect examples will be Venezuela. Voters in Venezuela in 1999 voted for a democratic socialism administration, and it led to shortages of toilet paper. Toilet paper, just something as basic as what you wipe your ass with, is now, up for grabs on the black market. On top of that, there's a whole bunch of social unrest amongst the very people who wanted socialism. Bureaucrats completely confiscated and destroyed wealthy industries within those nations. Also in European nations, we have religious issues. There's no freedom of religions in certain areas in Europe. And not to mention, in Oregon of the United States of America, we have a baker who was forced by a gag order not to practice his own religion in public, and that he isn't allowed to have his own religious faith. Socialism is one of the biggest issues that is tackling our nation today. They believe that reason is a problem, that capitalism is a problem, that democratic socialism is wrong. Now, joining us today, we have a fellow Walk Away member, Dayla Frazier, and she will be joining us after the break. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Speak On It. Joining me right now is Dayla Frazier, fellow Walk Away member. Nice to see you, Dayla. Awesome sauce. So basically, I just want to know, where are you from originally?
Well, I am originally from Valley Stream, Long Island. It's a small town, but I love it. It's diverse, very diverse.
Awesome. So, like I said, you're a fellow Walk Away member, so yay. And how did you find the Walk Away campaign?
Well, honestly, I found the Walk Away. I was invited by a fellow Q member. I'm in a Q group. So in that group, we talk about politics, Trump, Obama, Hillary Clinton, a lot of maybe deep state conspiracies, if you want to name it that way. And someone invited me through that group into the Walk Away.
That's awesome. So you guys talk about the Hillary Clinton investigation and stuff, and then
All the time.
So what's your opinion in regards to Peter Strzok right now? I have to ask. Did you
Well,
watch?
no, I haven't. I've been staying away from that because so much conflict and the news is very biased.
Yeah.
So until the full story comes out, I try to tiptoe and dabble.
Well, I hear you. I'm waiting for all the information to come out by itself.
Especially with the Lisa Page, with the private
Yes, I
discussions
need them to release the transcripts on that. Once they release that, because rumor has it that it wasn't Russia, that it was China. But
Right,
we'll
so
digress
we'll
from
see.
that, right? Well, I get why you joined the Walk Away campaign. I think for the same reasons I did. Personally, I wanted to balance out my friends on Facebook. I had so many liberals that I did not want to post anything.
Right.
And then I joined the Walk Away campaign, and I started doing those videos, and so many people started friending me. And even the third video that I did, I had to thank them because I needed that balance. Now when I go on my Facebook and I post something like petitioning The View or anything regarding Trump, there are conservative voices that are combating the liberal BS that are commenting on my page. But that's why I joined. So why did you do it? For the same reasons, or did you have your own?
What do you mean, like join the walk?
The walk away campaign. Like, what made you say I'm going to be a part of it? Why, you know?
Well, I think that it's definitely important because I'm obviously a young Black American.
Right.
So in like the community, and I also go to a HBCU. So
right.
on campus, I'm like few of many, and I noticed the bias. And before, even I was always on the fence. Always on the fence of conservative and liberal, but just noticing how if someone would say they're conservative on campus, how automatically just be bashed. And I'm just noticing just all of the bias in general in media, in education. Oh my goodness! So like in the classroom, it's terrible. I have a more conservative teacher, and he can't even get his point across in the classroom. So just noticing all those things just really made me go way more to the right than I was before. I was definitely on the fence, but definitely noticing these things myself, with taking a close eye into these things, a deep dive, and then getting my information, doing my own research, makes you go to the right. I don't understand if you want to do your own research. Anyone who's
right,
has liberal, yes.
You have common sense, and you know, you believe in, you know, I should help people, but not being, detrimental to my own wealth, my own happiness, and things of that nature. So obviously we know that you're conservative. So how did you react to the idea of a socialist running in New York?
Well, I'm a North Carolina resident now. I've been going to university there for 3 years, so I voted in North Carolina. I can't vote in New York because I do North Carolina, but my opinion is, I was just hearing something on the radio, I don't know if this is true, but yeah, about only 70,000 people voted in the election. Wow. Yeah, I just heard that, so you can check those facts. No, for the election for Alexandria, only 70,000 people voted. Yeah. So with that being said, I think just it's important for people to vote. Like, people to get out there and vote. If you want to see true change, you have to vote and not ignore it, especially in the Black community. I've noticed for a very, very long time, people say, either I'm not going to vote because my vote doesn't count, or I'm not going to, I'm just going to vote Democrat because that's yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like most Black kids around, especially around our age, they're mostly Democrat because their parents were, or that's just how that was. I mean, in the beginning of the 2016 election, like, I hated Donald Trump. I was all for Hillary Clinton, and I started watching Megyn Kelly just because they had that tit for tat in the media. And then she was giving me facts as to why you shouldn't like Hillary Clinton. And it was like, well, that makes sense. If I have to choose between someone who's a crook and, excuse my language, but asshole, I think I'm going to go with the business savvy asshole over the crooked, political harlot that, to be Hillary Clinton. And that's just kind of how that went. But, when he started coming out, my brother was laughing at what Trump was saying, and he was in full agreement. My older brother, I love him to death, but he's very much misogynistic. And that's why I can tolerate some of Trump's kind of lingo, because my brother says almost half the things that Trump says, but he's not on a political platform, so he doesn't have to, mind his mouth unless he's in the presence of his mother or other women, which he doesn't seem to care about either. So, that whole concept of, being Democrat because you're Black, or being Democrat because you're Spanish, and that's what, I am, and our cameraman / producer is, we're Hispanic, Black, female Americans, but everybody's like, focus on the color of your skin, focus on your gender, and that's just simple-minded, my personal opinion. Right? Well, thank you guys for joining us with Speak on a Day. Thank you so much. But I actually want you to stick around for another segment that I call Clap Back. And I'm hitting at you guys who thought it wise to come at both me and Dayla on our Facebook or even at home, but y'all about to get it. So return with us after this break. Welcome back with Dayla and me. This is a segment I like to call Clap Back. This segment is clapping back at everyone who thought it wise to either insult, demean, or basically use emotions to respond to our facts. And so there is one that we were talking about earlier about my roommate. She's wrong and I'm right. Get this guy out of my apartment. I don't want that lifestyle invading my space. Do you have any kind of stories like that where that ideology or that way of life, not particularly the nightlife, but just liberal way of life kind of infecting your...
I actually do. What you were saying about if you're gonna sell it, don't sell it for, that weed or something like that. I've heard that quote from aunts, uncles, from a lot of people in my family. They'll tell their the young ones, vagina costs.
Right, exactly. Oh, they say the P word costs.
Right. So it's just like, and it's like they're giving these like ideologies, I think it's totally wrong. If you're, because like you said, ignorant conservative, I was definitely raised in with conservative ideologies, but with brainwashing liberal ways about that they carry about themselves every day. So
there's a lack of modesty in some of our families. It's like it's okay to be that way. And that's because I think it's the entertainment's fault. I think you parade it around like it's just this jewel that everybody can have, when really it's a jewel that should be 50 feet underground that only Cartier has the key to. I'm sorry, that's just how I think about I did just see Ocean's 8, so kind of spoiler alert.
I definitely agree with the whole, even in school, when in high school, learning about sex ed class.
Oh gosh.
We never even had a class in my high school. We never had a class called sex ed. We just
had life skills.
We incorporated it in health class.
Oh, I got you.
Honestly, we never had a sex ed class, but they did always teach safe sex instead of
abstinence. Right? I'm like, listen, I get it. Kids are gonna do what they're gonna do. But I'm like, you gotta tell them, if you can't afford all versions of birth control, you shouldn't be having sex. Let's just be real. And your parents not gonna put that into their budget. Okay, so we gotta get groceries, I gotta pick up husband's meds, make sure I get little Maddie's birth control. That's not gonna happen. Right. If you can't afford it, then don't start having sex. That's my personal opinion.
Any instances like at work or someone who you highly respected kind of trying to shut you down or that you want to clap back at, because I know, oh my gosh, I knew I had to clap back. That's why I brought up my boss and Shell, so I hope you're watching this.
Well, I just think, just in general, the people that, not unfortunately, but the people I was raised up with, everyone, everywhere I turn, it's a liberal. So it's like, it kind of makes you shut down your opinions a lot because you just don't want to get bashed at. Even last night when I was discussing about coming on the show and speaking to you, you're like, well, just saying different things, trying to shoot facts at me. And one thing I had to bring up to attention to my parents and to my family members who were there, is that it's a rhetoric that they like to push, agenda that they like to push, and you can notice it firsthand with written words. I'm an English major, so and I just took a course on technical writing. So you're when you're a writer, you're supposed to get the audience attention. You're supposed to know your audience.
Yes.
So if you know your audience hates Trump, you're gonna write big titles that are gonna misconstrue words.
Yeah.
And my parents brought me to this article, and I'm just like, the first thing I seen was the title, and I'm just like, well, look at this title right here. It says that he said something, but if you keep reading, they quoted something that they said that he said in a conversation with an advisor. It wasn't a real quote, because if it was, it would have been on the screen. Other quotes were on the screen. They put quotes from him on the screen. They even played a video of him actually speaking, but the title was just the title that draws you in is gonna go off of this quote from a conversation with an advisee who knows if this is true facts or not, because he's reading, the commentator is reading off of a paper. We don't see the quote on the screen like we see others. So it's just you have to notice things like that in the media when they try to throw this rhetoric at you. It's totally false, and you have to just notice it. I just try to tell people like my friends and family who are still
very
deeply,
liberal.
deeply liberal, just read inside in between the lines because words, it's a play on words.
Yeah.
It's always been that. I also think, well, I've noticed people ask the wrong questions. I always say this all the time. When I watch the news and everything, especially CNN, I always try to, even though no one's there to answer my questions, I always write down like questions that should be asked.
Right.
Because it's like, when they have panelists on there, even though they might have a conservative and a liberal panelist, they don't ask the right questions. So if you're not asking certain questions, how do you expect to get a real response?
Yeah.
And it's just that's a thing
I
too.
actually have a perfect example of what you're talking about. It's in regards to Stormy Daniels. And I don't really like talking about her that often, unless I'm talking to my brother, because again, he's a misogynist, and talking about Stormy Daniels kind of gets him on my side. But she did an interview with Anderson Cooper on CNN, and he was asking her all of these questions about her, crazy affair with Donald Trump, which I didn't really care for. But there was one particular question that I felt he should have asked and he didn't. So he asked her, was it consensual? And she said yes. Then he asked her, were you attracted to him? She said no. He said, you weren't attracted to him, but it was consensual. She said, of course. And it wasn't rape, I consented to it. And so the question he should have asked was, well, if you weren't attracted to him, why did you sleep with him? Right? Because the answer to that would have been, well, for the money, which is what everybody already knew. People, for some reason, especially on the left, need to hear her say it. And he didn't ask that question. It was a perfect example. So why'd you do it? You get that question, you get the answer to that question, and all those investigations where she's concerned anyway just get washed away. Because, she kind of sleeps for it. It's just what we know to be true. But asking questions, the right questions is key. But that's the issue with our fourth estate. You ask me, with the exception of some journalists, because I do like Megyn Kelly. I just wish she wasn't on NBC. It's the worst network you could possibly be on. And some of the people at Fox, I agree with some things that Sean Kennedy says, and he is predominantly opinion. If you ask me, he's like the Donald Trump of the fourth estate. That's what he is. Which is why I get why people don't really want to hear him out. He's not really a journalist, but I do like Judge Pirro and Laura Ingraham. They ask the right questions, but our fourth estate is almost gone. And I almost think that press box that we have, where Sarah Sanders is asking, I think that can go. I think the American public have better questions that we want actual answers to than any of those reporters in there. Any of them. I think they can go. I think that might be our time for this particular segment. Dila, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Anytime you're in the area, just let us know.
Welcome back to Speak On It. I wanted to say thank you to all of you who've joined us for our very first episode, brought to you by Archie Plays. And hopefully we can keep you guys on as an audience, maybe bring on some more Walk Away members for further episodes, which will be picking up in August, so I hope to hear from you guys. To wrap up for the entire episode, remember, socialism is not the answer to our issues. If you want a prosperous and happy life here in the United States of America, all you need are three things: reason, capitalism, and individualism. Remember those three things in your every single day, and you will be prosperous. You will have the happy life that you're looking for. But you cannot be willing to be self-sacrificial. Jesus has already taken care of that. It's not our job to take care of everyone in the world or to save the world. To quote Yolanda Adams, the battle is not yours, it is the Lord's. He's got everybody in the world. He's got humanity. All we have to do is take care of you and your own. That is all you have to do. Help thy neighbor, yes, but don't be self-sacrificial. Remember, stay classy and to speak on it.